Welcome to my channel, BabyPano. The storytelling today is Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time, in a quaint village nestled among the trees, there lived a sweet little girl known as Little Red Riding Hood. She earned this name because she always wore a vibrant red cloak that her grandmother had made for her. Little Red Riding Hood's real name was Rose, but everyone in the village called her Ed for short. One day, Red's mother called her into the kitchen. "Red, my dear, your grandmother is feeling under the weather. I've made a basket of goodies for her. Would you be a darling and take it to her?" Red's eyes lit up with excitement. She loved her grandmother dearly and was always eager to help. "Of course, Mom, I'll go right away," she replied, tying her red cloak tightly around her shoulders. Her mother smiled warmly. "Remember, stick to the path, and don't talk to strangers. Off you go now, and be safe." With the basket of goodies in hand, Red skipped along the familiar forest path. Birds chirped overhead, and the sunlight filtered through the lush green canopy. Red hummed a merry tune as she made her way to her grandmother's cottage. However, lurking in the shadows of the woods was a cunning wolf who had spotted Red and her basket of treats. His stomach growled at the thought of a tasty meal. The wolf, with his sly grin, decided to play a wicked trick. "Good day, Little Red Riding Hood," the wolf said, stepping out onto the path, his voice as smooth as honey. Red stopped in her tracks, surprised to see someone else in the woods. "Oh, hello there, are you lost?" she asked, her innocence shining through. The wolf shook his head, his eyes gleaming with mischief. "No, dear girl, I'm just out for a stroll. But what's that you have in your basket? It smells delightful." Red's smile widened. "These are goodies for my grandmother. She's not feeling well, so I'm taking them to her." The wolf's grin widened at the mention of Red's grandmother. "How thoughtful of you. Where does your grandmother live, if I may ask?" Red, unaware of the danger, pointed in the direction of her grandmother's cottage. "Just a little further into the woods. She lives in a cozy cottage surrounded by all oak trees." The wolf's eyes narrowed with hunger as he realized his opportunity. "Thank you, Little Red Riding Hood. You've been most helpful," he said before darting off into the trees, leaving Red behind. Red continued on her way, skipping and singing, oblivious to the danger that lurked nearby. Meanwhile, the wolf raced ahead, eager to reach the grandmother's cottage before Red. When the wolf arrived at the cottage, he knocked on the door with a gentle tap. "Who is it?" came the frail voice of Red's grandmother from inside. "It's me, Little Red Riding Hood. I've brought you some goodies," the wolf replied, mimicking Red's voice as best as he could. Delighted at the sound of her granddaughter's voice, the grandmother opened the door without hesitation. But instead of seeing Red standing there, she found herself face to face with the cunning wolf. Before the grandmother could react, the wolf pounced, devouring her in one swift gulp. With a satisfied burp, he climbed into the grandmother's bed, pulling the covers up to his chin and waiting for Little Red Riding Hood to arrive. Meanwhile, Red arrived at the cottage and knocked on the door. "Grandma, it's me, Red. I've brought you some goodies," she called out cheerfully. "Come in, my dear," the wolf disguised as the grandmother replied, trying to sound as sweet as possible. Red entered the cottage, setting the basket of goodies down on the table. As she approached the bed, she noticed something odd about her grandmother's appearance. My, what big ears you have, Grandma, Red exclaimed, puzzled by the sight before her. All the better to hear you with, my dear, the wolf replied, his voice still disguised. Red moved closer, examining her grandmother's face. And what big eyes you have, Grandma. All the better to see you with, my dear, the wolf replied, licking his lips in anticipation. And what big teeth you have, Grandma, Red cried out, finally realizing the truth. All the better to eat you with, the wolf roared, leaping out of bed and lunging for Red. But Red was quicker than the wolf expected. With a swift movement, she grabbed the nearby fireplace poker and swung it at the wolf, striking him on the nose. Yelping in pain, the wolf stumbled backward and dashed out of the cottage, never to be seen again. Red quickly freed her grandmother from the wolf's belly, and together they shared a hearty laugh at the wolf's failed trickery. From that day forward, Red always remembered to stick to the path and never talk to strangers, especially those with big ears, big eyes, and big teeth. And as for the wolf, well, he learned the hard way that you can't outsmart a clever little girl in a red cloak. Please like, share and subscribe.